All right, folks, we'll get started. Um, Welcome to the inaugural Light Paycoin webinar Wednesday. My name is Patrick. I work in strategy and communications and marketing and that sort of stuff with LPC. This is the first one of these, so we're all learning as we go. This is going to be a weekly opportunity to check in with the LPC team, to hear from the founder and CEO, Dr. Damon Bryant, who's going to be talking quite a bit today about sort of the current status of things, where things are going, the kind of achievements and accomplishments of the past week or so. But yeah, I mean, we're happy to have you here, and we're happy to to talk to you over the coming weeks. Let's briefly talk about the structure of this thing, so folks can ask questions face to face or voice to voice, as it were, if they want to. If you'd like to use the microphone to ask a question, all you have to do is raise your hand in the chat. If you prefer not to use audio, or your microphone is not set up or whatever, you can chat your questions to Larry, who's another member of the team here, who's a participant. To do that, you just have to, in the two drop-down menu there in the chat module, you just have to select Larry, go ahead and chat your question. So it seems like we have some attendees joining, which is great. I've also pasted the instructions about how to ask questions and things like that in the chat. So if you go up and you see something from Patrick, those are your instructions. So Damon, while everybody gets questions together and things like that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you end up here as the CEO of LPC? The quick and dirty version of your background.
Sure. Thanks again. And just to give a little bit about my background, in essence, I'll just talk and tell about some of the things that I mentioned at the Blockchain World Conference and the interviews that we had with some other organizations that actually streamed out the first few set of videos. So initially, I started out earlier this year doing some trading. I'm also a programmer. I'm also a psychologist in this space. So on Masternode Online, I was trading along, going from Masternode to Masternode, and along the way meeting different Masternode owners themselves who were also trading. And as some coins would go up, and then next thing you know, they would go down, and then I would make an exit and then go to another coin, build up a Masternode, and then would see some of the same members who were also developers or just full-time traders themselves, and just involved in the cryptocurrency space. So at some point mid-March, we began to move it down the path of developing our own cryptocurrency. So we wanted to have one that definitely had a masternode with proof of stake, and also would have the ability whereby we could scale and actually bring a real world use case to the masses. So, and one of the main goals was to have a lot of customer adoption, not only in just peer-to-peer transactions, but also in B2C or business to consumer or peer to business, and then from peer or customer to governments. Because that's one of the main things that we're facing now in this space, all of the issues around regulatory clarity in the United States, not only the United States, but across the world. So how do you begin to create a mechanism by which you can increase mass adoption, but yet at the same time be comfortable that you've organized yourself in such a way where you're not in a compromising position within one or more governments. So it's the case we decided to build up an international team. We have team members, as I mentioned earlier, from the Philippines, South Korea, Japan, Croatia, Ukraine, even Russia. So it's the case that we do have members all across the world. We do have some members who are tuning in today from China to hear our first inaugural webinar. And I look to do these every week to give you all an update in terms of what we're doing in the space, some progress that we've made. I think a week is appropriate considering how fast this space moves. I don't think it makes sense to have a quarterly call like every, say, 3 months or so, because this space just moves absolutely too fast for us to give updates every quarter. So we're looking at once a week. We'll see how it turns out. Obviously, we're going to make some mistakes. This is our first one. We'll blunder, but we'll get it right eventually and get everybody in sync where we have a regular meeting and can keep you guys updated. We have a lot of great news from since the Blockchain World Conference. And we'll tell you about that a little bit more, some of the things that we're actively working on and developing. And I'll just give a recap, in terms of what happened, say, over these past couple of weeks. I know some of you are concerned about, like, some of the price action. Don't want to necessarily focus on price action and just talk about the price, because if we focus on price, that's all that everyone would be attuned to, new investors and old investors alike. I like to begin to shift more of the conversation where it should be in terms of the value that we create. At some point, I do believe the value that we create for our investors and the extent to which we're able to meet the targets on our roadmap, that value will align with the price at some point. So, and I do appreciate all the members who've joined so far and have been with us since the beginning, but I'll try to give some clarity and some of my insights and thoughts as to what happened over these last few weeks, and like some of the great things that are happening in this space. So unless there are any other questions, I'll in essence just give a brief summary. I talked just a little bit about where some of the team members are, how I got into the space. But I want to give a quick overview for those who did not see the initial interviews that we did, and also the Blockchain World Conference presentation. With LightPay Coin, we are a next generation hybrid cryptocurrency that uses proof of stake and masternodes to secure the network. Masternodes, they facilitate both the private and the instant send transactions. So when you think about Bitcoin, the major problem that Bitcoin solved was the double spend. How are you able to keep track of transactions and a limited supply of currency without double spending any of the currency that, once again, it has a fixed supply? So Bitcoin really solved that issue. Even before that, there were some cryptocurrencies that came out, but they weren't able to solve that. So Satoshi Nakamoto, that person or group of people, or an alien, who knows, there's no evidence to dispute or support that it was one person or just many people, or maybe not even somebody from this planet. So I'm going way out there and saying, hey, it could have been an alien just dropped off the tech and left. Who knows? But for the most part, Bitcoin solved the double spend problem. But then you do have issues around Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and some of the other cryptocurrencies, first generation cryptocurrencies, where you can't solve the issue of fungibility. Fungibility is just a term that basically says any unit of Bitcoin, even down to the level of Satoshi, is just as equal or is the same as any other unit, whereby, for instance, with the US dollar is fiat currency and is completely fungible, whereby you don't know where that dollar came from, and it can be used and exchanged like any other currency. So it provides a level of privacy, knowing where it did or did not, where it did not come from. So that was the next issue that needed to be solved in the cryptocurrency space. Dash came along and was able to solve the issue around fungibility and also solve some of the concerns around speed of transactions. When you think about this, how the block size and how many transactions you can fit within the blockchain of Bitcoin, it's the case that roughly the theoretical maximum is around 7 BTC. But not to dive in all of the details around the cryptocurrency, but at the end of the day, Dash really helped to solve the issue around fungibility, bringing in the privacy aspect. And with masternodes, was able to solve the concerns around the speed of transactions with instance. And PivX also came along and it was a fork of Dash and has some of those same characteristics. And in essence, our cryptocurrency, LightPay coin, is a fork of PivX, which is a fork of Dash, which ultimately is a fork of Bitcoin, the great granddaddy of them all. So at the end of the day, taking those benefits from the other cryptocurrency, what we really want to do, we want to bring it to the masses. Even though we see some cryptocurrencies coming out that are attempting to move down that path, but it's not a core mission. That is our core mission, to be able to bring cryptocurrencies to the masses for use in business transactions and also use in government transactions as well. So with that said, we wanted to deploy a very easy to use infrastructure, to facilitate all of these different types of payments to local businesses and governments. And we're going to create the next generation of wallets, the point of sale devices, and the contactless ATM machines that uses the near field communication technology of your mobile phone. And I think if any of you are in like large cities, you can go and find a Bitcoin ATM, but yet you're not necessarily engaging with it with your mobile phone. Same thing with the point of sale devices. We want to build very easy to use point of sale devices where you can transact with your mobile phone, not only in business but also within government. And just to talk a little bit about the specifications of LightPay coin, we're following the lead of Bitcoin and have a maximum supply of 21 million, with 1,000 coins required for a masternode. And I don't think that's not going to change anytime in the future. 1,000 coins is 1,000 coins. The price is going to change, obviously, because we're still going through, say, price discovery. But at the end of the day, it's 1,000 coins for a masternode. So now we have the block reward fluctuates. You can receive up to 90% of a block reward for having a masternode, and the remaining amount will go to the regular nodes, individuals who are staking in their wallet as well. Now that we talked a little bit about the history, a little bit about the specifications around the coin, our core mission, being able to bring LightPay coin to the masses for business use and also for government use, we'll just chat a little bit about the market activity, because I know that's what some of you are concerned about. Our current price right now, it's stabilized around $4.50, $5.30 on a daily basis. So it's fluctuating around maybe 80, 90 cents per day, but it's stable. It's been stable for the past 30 days or so. Let me see if I can share my screen and I can give a quick explanation in terms of what I've seen and have been able to determine like what has happened over these past few days. So bear with me. This is my first Zoom where I'm sharing my screen and looking at some of this activity. Here we go. I'm going to share this. And so can you all see my screen?
It looks black right now, Damon. Oh, okay. There we go. It's coming in now.
Cool. All right, I'm not a technical expert by no means. At the same time, on all the exchanges where we're on, we don't have those high-speed, low-drag technical tools. What I'll attempt to do, I do know a little bit about, say, technical analysis. I'm not an expert by any means, but feel free to give your comments as well. But anytime you see, and this is what you see here is a price action as of yesterday from the 6th of June. And what you see here, a variety of parallel lines. And when you do technical analysis, you typically try to find what we call like the support and the resistance point within a chart. So as you can see, when we first started out, we had a very linear movement in terms of the price action. Very nice, very calm. We got a lot of different users who came into the space. At the same time, we had a very big dip around, say, the 19th and then the 21st. And it took it down to almost like 37 cents. But we quickly recovered. And when that happened, and here's a general rule: anytime that you have some level of rise and resistance, that resistance at some point will serve as support when there's volatility in the market, either a sell-off or a run-up. Some of those either rising points and where there was a resistance, you see that there was some resistance here and it dropped. And then it came back up, and then it went through and bust through that last level of resistance and immediately went to around $5 and some change. At this point, we saw a change in the dynamic around the 26, 27. We saw a change in the dynamic of the currency. We increased our position on Masternodes online. More people became exposed to it. We began to have a little bit more relationships with different marketing online cryptocurrency organization. At the same time, this is around the general location where we revealed the members of the team, which at that point we got a lot of confidence from investors who said, okay, we now see the team. Unlike a lot of different cryptocurrencies, they're announcing, they're doing ICOs, but you don't see the members of the team. You don't see the members, what are their backgrounds, logging on to different sites. I know at that point on both my LinkedIn account and the papers that I had written in the past, they skyrocketed in terms of the number of views. I have a few mathematical proofs, not to say I'm the Black Satoshi Nakamoto or anything like that, but it was the case. I got a lot of attention that was reviewed in viewing my profile, my background, and my history. At that point, we went from a linear phase to a parabolic. We moved into a linear phase to a parabolic phase. Once everyone began to get exposure and know about the team, it became a little bit more comfortable. We hit some resistance, we came down, we hit resistance, and then we hit some level of support. So we had a resistance here, we had some support here at around 80 some odd cents. We shot up, went parabolic. It's no longer linear at this point. The relationship is now curved. It's parabolic where it began. We shot up, didn't necessarily have any resistance until we hit around $18 and some change. When that happened, we had a major sell-off right around the sell-off in the market right before the conference. And then my thought when I was doing the initial TA was thinking that we would hit this level of support and stabilize. So we'd have some level of support around $8 because that support was here and it was consistent. And when it was slowing down, I was like, yes, we're going to bounce off of that price point. That's around $7.50 or so. And because this was slowing down, I'm like, yes, this is the way the market is going to react. And I was thinking we'll be well on our way. But we did not bounce off of that level of support. We fell right through it. We fell through this support line. We fell through this support line, which I thought we were going to have some support here because there was some resistance and then there's some support and then there's also some resistance, but we broke through. And I was thinking $6, that would be our comfortable, that would be our range, what we would bounce, but we fell right through it. At that point in time, our last level of support, well, really there are two more levels, but yet the one that we're most interested in here is around $4 and some change. And that's where we began to slow down. So you see the level of resistance here, which once again, your past resistance tends to turn into support. And we also see some level of support right here. So the support around $5.50 and the support around $4.50, that's where we landed. So now we do have another comfortable level of support between $4 and $5. And as you notice, that's where we go. That's where we're going through each day. But going back to the general trend, and trends typically are trends until something changes the trend. It's the case here. It was linear, then it went parabolic, a change in the trend, and then there was a correction. And it's natural to have these corrections or these retracements. And this was our first major one and the first major test of what really happened. But for the most part, it went linear. And notice how we drew this line here to where we are now. It's falling back onto that linear trend. So I do expect for us to continue to rise in terms of the announcement we're getting ready to make. But this is my technical analysis, very crude based on the market data that we have off Masternode Online. But I do think it's a decent explanation in terms of what has happened in the past, following a linear line, revealing the team, going parabolic, doing a retracement, and now falling back onto that linear line, bouncing now between $4 and $5 in terms of the price action today. So that's all I have right now on the explanation of what happened. I'm going to switch back and not share my screen and go back here. How do I stop?
So Damon, before you kind of switch on to the next topic, we have a question from the community, and the question is where is another co-founder, which I think is, getting at, sort of who is the team, who else was involved at the sort of founder level and things like that.
Sure. We also have other co-founders who are they're all listed on the website, and they have their profiles. We have Yuri in Croatia. We have Brendimar as well, who is in the Ukraine. And we'll be looking to travel. I'll be looking to travel to the Ukraine in October. I was invited to a blockchain/hacker conference in Kiev. And we'll also be connecting with the other members of the team. And of course, because we started out as a decentralized team, we hadn't met all of the team members. I haven't met all the team members just yet. We've had some Zoom, some Skype meetings. And initially, because I'm really one of the initial co-founders who is a native speaker, and some of them are English, they're using English as a second language, we do have a very small communication barrier. But considering that we begin to work on this project more and more, we're bringing down that barrier. So as I mentioned before, we have members all over the world, but most of the team we have in the Ukraine, Croatia, also Poland as well. And as we make these meetings and as we begin to progress more and more, other team members will begin to have interaction with you all as we begin to move to different geographies and have other events. And that's something that I really would like to do, so that not only myself as the co-founder and, like I said, at this point, the main native English speaker, but also the other team members who are around the world. Now, I hope that answers your question. If not, you can just hit me up and send a note on Discord, and then we can follow up from there.
Yep. I know you've been active on the Discord channel recently, Damon, answering a lot of people's questions and things like that. So I'm sure that's appreciated. I have a quick question for you, Damon. So you mentioned before, you were kind of talking through, sort of what prompts these hills and valleys on the graphs and things like that. So like one thing I think was really interesting this past week, or so one of the most exciting developments, was this notion of the UCF partnership. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. And this falls into the category of our notable 45-day achievement, and I'll talk about the UCF relationship first. And how it came to be. So with the University of Central Florida, University of Central Florida was founded in the early 1960s with the sole mission of putting a man on the moon. They had a very large research base. In essence, they were called Florida Technological University, like you have Georgia Tech or MIT, technology focus. It was Florida Technological University. It rebranded itself to become more of a state school, but its core mission in the beginning was an R&D institute for NASA. Because I'm a graduate of the University of Central Florida in Industrial and Organizational Psychology program, I already had a relationship with them, being the first graduate of that program. And also through my previous business, I had relationships with them. We entered into a multi-year master level agreement to do research on the user interfaces, do research on the point of sale devices. That's both the hardware portion and the software portion of the applications. So it was not that difficult to get the relationship, but considering that UCF is the largest university in the United States and the largest producer of engineers in the aerospace and defense industry, it's a very large and bureaucratic organization. And I think probably the first mistake that I did was when it was official that we inked the deal and had everything locked down, I made the announcement on the Discord immediately. At that point, members of the team, okay, we'd like to see something from them. It was immediate. Every day I would either get emails, both personal emails, my past business emails, and even on the Discord and DM, Twitter, everybody saying, okay, are you real? Is the relationship with UCF real? I say, yes, it's real. We need to see something immediately. So it was a frenzy in trying to determine whether or not the relationship with UCF was in fact a real partnership, multi-year partnership to do the research, development, and deployment of the wallets, the point of sale devices, and the ATMs. And as investors, I know it's very important for you to have clarity. In this market where we're in right now, there are a lot of scams going around. There are a lot of organizations that are saying they're going to do certain things, but they have certain partnerships, but yet their partnerships hadn't been announced. For instance, with Ripple, with all of the relationships that they had and pilots that they began to start, some of those corporations that began to enter into partnership relationships with them did not necessarily want to disclose, or they wanted to disclose on their own timeline. So I think that's something that we have to begin to appreciate, that organizations, these corporate entities and institutions, they're not operating at the same speed that we are. This is a space that's operating really, really fast. That's why we're giving weekly calls instead of quarterly calls. And I think that's going to continue until there's some, I don't want to say black swan event, but some skyrocketing event that basically brings all of cryptocurrency into the mainstream where it's normal, and we begin to see some very solid price discovery, some stability around the coins, and a lot of less volatility. I think at that point, which I think is coming within the next year and a half, with all the institutions coming in, with the ETFs, with all of the CME began to play into space, SEC giving some regulatory clarity around what's a security, what's not a security. I do think we're going to settle at some point. But right now, these corporate entities, they're not on our timeline. So I followed up every single day since making that announcement with UCF to see, okay, what are you guys going to do in terms of being able to get out a press release? Initially, they said, oh, we think we'd be able to get one out by the conference, but obviously with things happening, they weren't able to do that. I did do another follow-up on that next Monday. And then at the end of the day, they said, I think it makes sense for you all to at least acknowledge LightPay Coin in a tweet, and then do a follow-up at a later point in time. So they said, yes, that's a great idea. And I told them, hey, I'm there. My investors are eating me alive because they needed to have some clarity, some information. So what they did, the communications department from the UCF College of Science began coordinating with the university-wide communications department, and the university-wide communications department said, yes, this is something that we really want to announce to the UCF community broadly, not only internally, but externally as well, to put the world on notice that one of the leading universities in the United States in research and development within human factors and engineering, they're beginning to play and put their foot in the game within the blockchain space. So they're going to do, in addition to the tweet that they put out, which was very assuring for some investors, but I know a lot of investors would like to know more. In addition to the tweet, they're also doing a long article about LightPay Coin, myself, the psychology department, which is one of the first departments that's really engaged with us, who will be bringing not only human factor psychologists. These are psychologists who design interfaces for the Department of Defense. They also have a lot of researchers within the Institute of Simulations and Training, so they know a lot about training. They know a lot about interface design. Within the psychology department, students from computer science, students from engineering, they take a lot of human factors courses within the psychology department. And because that is the case, we'll be getting access to a lot of different students across across the university. And I think one thing that's unique is that we have researchers or professors who are at UCF who conducted research on ATM machines for the traditional financial sector. So I think it's only appropriate that those professors bring their expertise and help us with the automatic teller machines and beginning to help in designing interfaces. So not only can we have great interfaces for the people who are currently using the wallets, but also for individuals who are nowhere close to adopting this technology. But if we can lower the barrier to entry and bring them on board, for instance, the elderly or people who are not tech savvy, I think we can really begin to push hard in the space for mass adoption. So I can talk all day about UCF, one of the top having the top programming team in North America, being number 10 in the world in international programming competitions against other universities. And once again, I'll say it again, because I'm a graduate from UCF, I feel quite proud making the announcement and telling other members in the community and investors that we're in this space and we're going to stay in this space and we're going to dominate in this space. So we want to compete against BitPay. We want to compete against Bitcoin. We want to compete against all the top cryptocurrencies. We're young. We're only 60 days out, and we've made tremendous progress. And like I said, folks, this is only the beginning. And I could go on and on about UCF. We're now talking with the athletic department because their football team was undefeated last year and was declared the unofficial football champions. We're looking to see if we can get LightPay coin in the stadium. So every time there is a touchdown, and there will be many next year, they will see that LPC banner, and I think that would be a great thing. Don't quote me just yet. Like I said, we're still working on seeing what we can do to get it positioned appropriately within the stadium. But that's just that's one of the things. That's one of the crown achievements that we've done in these past 45 days. In addition to having some relationships with an exchange, and I'll mention that a little bit later. Does that help, Patrick?
Yep, Damon, that was great. We've got a bunch of questions actually popping up. So we got one question from the community that says, regularly on CryptoBridge, I see big orders passing between 500 to 1,500 approximately, appearing in the ask and executed instantly. How do you explain that?
Simply, from that evidence alone, we know that there's a lot of volume coming through. There are big orders and there are large orders coming in. I don't know exactly who's making those orders, but there is a link that I provided in the Discord where you can see the name of the ID of the person or the entity making the transaction. It could be a bot. It could be a whale coming through or a person who is operating as a retail investor, but doing work on behalf of an institution. I only know of like one institution for a fact that has come in to make large purchases. There were some days when I would look at CryptoBridge and I would see an 4 Bitcoin orders sitting on the buy side. That would typically either be a whale, someone acting on the behalf of an institution, but yet it's the case that those are large orders, and I don't know necessarily on the buy or the sell side, who that is exactly, but I can see the ID. And you can look in the Discord or on my Twitter feed, because I did provide that link in a chat to a gentleman who was asking, why all this volatility? Can you tell us what's going on? But what I can say, in the traditional markets, 95% of the trades that are going on, that's being done by bots or automated trading. And I would expect, considering that a lot of exchanges, they do allow bots to trade, you're seeing a lot of that price action occur because of those bots. So if I had to guess, I would say about 90% of the price action happening in the cryptocurrency space is done primarily by bots. And so the way that you can really get a sense of it, because I was really confused myself looking at how all the price action, everything would swing all at once. So when you see Bitcoin go down, everything else would go down. I really thought it was maybe 1 or 2 people that had access to all of the exchanges in the world, and they were actually pushing the button at the exact same time to buy or sell, moving that price action in one direction or another. But from my understanding now, how bots are trading, their amount of penetration in the general trading markets, and what's happening now in the cryptocurrency space, I would say those are bots either making very large or very small transactions, in addition to some retail investors acting on behalf of some either high net worth individuals or some institutions themselves. But I can tell you, here's what I know for a fact. There are corporate entities beginning to come into our space. There are corporate entities who are investing into LPC. Those individuals, those entities are having trouble with Coinbase. In fact, I had conversations with a corporate entity that said, hey, we want to make the order. We put in a transaction. We got kicked back. We contacted Coinbase. Coinbase mentioned, hey, it's going to take us a few days before you guys can really have your transaction. We're having an unprecedented volume of corporate clients or corporate or institutions coming in wanting to trade. So back to your question around these, say, 1,500 LPC being sold or bought, or large buy orders. I see that either as the bots, the large retail investors acting on behalf of corporate entities, or institutions themselves with some IDs making those transactions. I hope that makes sense. Once again, if you have questions, you can you can DM me on Discord.
Yeah, and I think it might be a good idea to re-up that link in the general channel on Discord of the sort of document that you're talking about. That might help. Okay, I got another question. What or who adds more benefit to LPC? Individuals buying coins and holding in an exchange, individuals buying coins and using an LPC wallet, individuals buying masternodes, or institutions buying masternodes? I ask as I am curious as to who are the valued owners.
I would say everyone's a valued owner. And when I say that, when individuals DM me or contact me on Discord or Twitter, I attempt to engage them and have a conversation as if they are the only investor. Although it's stressful and it strains me to a little bit to constantly have phone calls and have to set up weird meetings at 6 a.m. in the morning or at 11 p.m. at night just to have those conversations. But I value every single investor. Even if it's one person who owns even 2 LPC and they have questions about all the volatility or questions around the team or what's our roadmap or what we're doing, I try to treat every single investor as if they are the only one. I think at some point we'll begin to have other individuals have those interactions, but right now it's me. So I'm receiving phone calls from everywhere from the Ukraine, Russia, Boston, Massachusetts, all across the U.S. And it's the case that I'm primarily serving as the voice at this point, but I value every single investor. I think the nodes, the regular nodes, individuals who are holding LPC in their wallet, and getting and receiving reward for staking, that's a valuable part of the network. We are a hybrid cryptocurrency with 2 tiers of the network. One tier is the masternode responsible for the instant send and the private send transaction. The second tier is the tier with the individuals who have exposed their wallets and actually are staking their LPC to receive rewards. So right now, those are critical parts of our infrastructure, and you could have corporate entities who are not savvy or they don't have the staff to even begin to build a masternode, but yet they have their wallet staking. They're staking various amounts. At the same time, you could also have corporate entities at the masternode level who are supporting the network via the instant send and private send. So at this point, I think all of the investors and everyone who's either holding their funds in a wallet, that's critical because that's the first tier of the network around confirming transactions. And then the second tier of the network with the masternodes, instant send, and the private send, that's also important as well. A note about the saving your funds on an exchange. Right now, I'll explain what exchanges are doing now. Anytime that you leave your LPC on an exchange, and those funds may be staked by the exchange itself, because they may open the wallet open the wallet on the exchange and stake the currency LPC itself, and will receive that reward. Guess who gets that reward? You don't get that reward. That's a wallet that belongs to the exchange. There's another exchange, however, that has now started, and we're in a partnership with them now. It's called Your Exchange, yourex.io, where they will allow you to both do a one-click for staking, where you will receive the funds instead of the exchange receiving the funds, and a one-click masternode, because I think one of the issues where we're having some issues, even though there are some shared masternode services out, but having a one-click masternode where you're able to set up your masternode, not necessarily pay the 3, 4, even 5% for either having a shared masternode or having your own masternode. So that's another relationship that we have with yourex.io, which we will announce shortly. So we're just still working out some of the fine details. But I made an announcement at the Blockchain World Conference, but that's one of the issues as well. So I've addressed the issue associated with storing LPC on an exchange, but you're not getting paid in typical exchanges for the reward for staking. The exchange is currently doing that. With our partnership with YourX.io, that's going to change, where you'll be able to receive reward for leaving your LPC on the exchange. At the same time, that's just for the first tier of the network for the regular nodes just in your wallet, opening up and staking. Secondly, with the master nodes as well, you're able to receive the reward for private send and instant send transactions. I hope that makes sense. As you guys know, I could talk for like 3 hours, but it's the case. I really want to keep it succinct, and be able to inform you on some of the major issues that have happened over the past 45 days and where we're going in the next 90 days.
Cool. There's another question from the community. When will the point of sale be released?
So we're on track to release the initial version of the point of sale device by mid-December. So that's active work that's being done right now. There's also active work being done on the iOS wallet. In order to do the point of sale where it would be viable for a business to use it for its purpose, right now, as a minimum viable product, at a corporate entity, a small business or a mom and pop shop could buy a mobile wallet that accepts mobile phone that accepts the Android mobile wallet for LPC, and engage in transactions with another individual, a customer coming into their store, and they could just do a peer-to-peer transaction, mobile wallet to mobile wallet. That's quite easy to do. Just putting in the transaction, showing the QR code for a purchase, and then that customer coming into the store make that transaction. That's available now. That can be done right now. But what we are also building is a small mobile device, say like a tablet, whereby a transaction can be made, and will be more sophisticated in the sense where the business, will be able to program in different products within their store, and it will calculate the taxes, and then within the QR code, place the appropriate amount within the QR code for the customer to scan and then send the appropriate amount. And that would be instant. So that's what we're looking to have out in December. But right now, at a bare minimum, in terms of MVP, either a business can use the desktop wallet, but there's a little calculation that must be done in terms of calculating the taxes. But at this point, that's a minimum viable product, using the desktop or use desktop wallet or the Android mobile wallet, and then the customer must have their desktop wallet, their mobile wallet, the Android mobile wallet, to go into the store and conduct a transaction. So December.
Sounds good. Okay, so I think that's all the questions that we've got on deck so far. If anybody else has anything, feel free to just chat it out, into the general panel. But if not, we got one. Let's see. For the mobile wallet, will it have auto convert price from fiat to LPC?
At this point, the wallet does not do that. We're looking to make improvements to the wallet, both the Android wallet and the iOS wallet when it comes out. So we're in proactive development of the mobile wallet at this point to be able to add that feature. So now that you mentioned it, having that conversion error, it definitely makes sense. And we're going to be iterating on what we've done right now. My philosophy is minimum viable product, ship, get feedback. So now that's what we've done in terms of the Android wallet. It was minimally viable, and then we got that feedback. So it's the case that the iterations that we make, not only with the team that we have doing the development, but also with the human factors students and the other computer science students at the university, we'll be making iterations to those wallets, and then you'll be able to download those updates. But good question. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's worth saying, I think, that there's there's an idea box channel or an idea box area on the Discord channel where folks can make suggestions as they occur and things like that, right? I mean, that's stuff that I imagine you all take very seriously. So
sure. And if there are no more questions, I can continue to just give you some of the updates. You already know about the wallet. You already know that we do have some corporate investors in play who are investing into LPC. We have the partnership with Eurex.io. We also have the partnership with the university. And that's what we've done so far. And let me announce today, some of you, if you tuned into the Discord, you saw that we have we're on a new exchange. It's our largest exchange to date. So we're on a coin exchange now. You can begin trading on coin exchange. It's only, according to CoinMarketCap, it's number 122. Our next exchange targeted for the end of August is Cryptopia. Right now, Cryptopia, if you look at the daily volume on CoinMarketCap, Cryptopia is number 84, 85. But then when you look at Coin Exchange, the exchange that we just announced today, we're approximately, I think that exchange is like 122, 123. So it's very close in terms of its volume to our next exchange, but we're slowly moving up to the larger and larger exchange. But just note that there are large fees as well that we have to overcome. But I think with the increase in the investor support, with the price discovery that's going on in the space, and the progress that we're making in terms of delivering value to you all with the mobile wallets, with the partnerships, the more and more partnerships in place. There are partnerships that we have in place that we have not announced, but I want to have it in writing. So when I say it, you see it. There's undeniable proof. And that's, like I said, it's one of the first mistakes that I think I made in terms of making announcements prematurely, even though they were already done. It's the case you all needed to have that confirmation coming from the partner itself. So that's just one of the things that we want to be able to do. To the extent that we create more value, the price will sync up with the value at some point.
Right. So we're short on time, but we have one more question, which is, what will investors do to stabilize the price of LPC?
So right now, in my opinion, I think we've already stabilized the price. Right now, it did a retracement based upon its parabolic movement. I don't know if you want me to show that chart again, but for the most part, it went into different phases. At first, it started off very linear. After we revealed the team, the price went parabolic. So it changed in terms of its characteristics and went parabolic. And then as a result, we had no real major pullback since it had gone parabolic. And this is the first major one. But then I mentioned earlier, it broke through our first level of support, broke through a second level of support, and hit a third level of support, and leveled out around $4.50, between $4.50 and $5.50, maybe a dollar or so in either direction. But it's swinging at the last known level of solid resistance, which serves as support, and the last level of the next level of support. So it's bouncing between that 450 and 550 where those two lines were drawn. Maybe I can show it again just to give you an idea. This will be share and right here. As I mentioned earlier, you had a level of support here, a level of support here, a level of support here. when it did its first major retracement. It broke through that first level of support, even though it was trending to bounce. I thought it was going to bounce. It did not bounce, but yet it broke through the first level of support, second level of support, and it began to land around that third level here and stabilize on that first major resistance level, moving up to here. So resistance levels tend to turn to support levels. So now that's where you're beginning to see that price action between this level of resistance, which is where we are now, a little over, say, $5, and a little over 4, a little under 5. So that's where the price is bouncing right now. But yet you notice it retraced after doing this parabolic move back to this line, this regression, what I would call like the trend line here, and is now, I think, beginning to trend back in a linear fashion. Who knows if it goes parabolic, or if it really begins to test again this level of support and falls below that $3 mark. If it falls past that $3 mark, either you're looking at the level of support around here, or that last major level of support around 80 some odd cents. It could go up or it could go down, but for the most part, I'm explaining what's happened in terms of the trend line. So it's falling back in line with the original linear movement and not following the parabolic movement. We'll need to see over the next few days in terms of how this turns out, but that's just my estimate so far, if that makes sense. But I think the price is stable and we're consolidating in that price range.
Very good. All right, folks. Well, we're just about at time here. Thank you all very, very much for attending, and thanks, Damon, for being so available and things like that. As always, feel free to hit the team up on Discord, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one of these next week.
Thanks, folks.
Everybody. See ya.